Hi everybody, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. On October 17th, Israel bombed and destroyed Al-Ahli, Al-Arabi hospital in Gaza. This hospital was serving as a medical facility and shelter for women, children, men, nurses, doctors, and so much more. The Israeli airstrike killed over 800 Palestinian people. The genocide of Palestinians in Gaza has been escalating the last few days, and the death toll has reached over 3,000. And many more have been displaced. With the intensifying violence against Palestinians in Gaza, the thousands have been murdered by the Israeli occupation, and many of us have been grieving the killing of the innocent Palestinian child in Illinois. Today, we are here to demand the local and federal elected officials take action and uplift the Palestinian voices, the Arab voices, the Muslim voices of San Diego, and demand an end to the US-backed Israeli occupation. First up, I'd like to introduce Imam Taha, who's going to start us off with a Quran recitation and dua.
Assalamu alaikum and peace be with you all. We as Muslims, when we want to mourn and honor our martyrs, our people who pass away, we recite verses of the Quran that remind us about the nature of this life and that one day, sooner or later, we will all be departing from this world. So I'm going to recite a few verses from Surah Al-Baqarah and then some verses from Surah Al-Imran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. O you who believe, seek help through patience and prayers. Allah is with the patient. And do not say of those who are killed in Allah's path, they are dead. In fact, they are alive, but you do not perceive. We will test you with some fear and hunger and loss of wealth and lives and crops, but give good news to those who patiently endure. Those who, when afflicted by a calamity, say, to Allah we belong, and to Him we are returning. Upon these are blessings and mercy from their Lord. These are the guided ones.
And now a few verses from Surah Al-Imran. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين الذين استجابوا لله والرسول من بعد ما أصابهم القرح للذين أحسنوا منهم واتقوا أجر عظيم الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل فانقلبوا بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء واتبعوا رضوان الله والله ذو فضل عظيم.
Do not consider those killed in Allah's way as dead. In fact, they are alive with their Lord provided for. Delighting in what Allah has given them from His bounty, and happy for those who have not yet joined them from among those who remain behind, that they have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. Rejoicing in blessings from Allah, and bounty that Allah will not waste the reward of the faithful. Those who responded to Allah and the Messenger, despite the persecution they had suffered, from the virtuous and the reverent among them, is a great reward. Those to whom the people said, "The people have mobilized against you, so fear them." But it increased them in faith, and they said, "Allah is enough for us. He is the excellent protector." So they came back with grace from Allah and bounty, untouched by evil. And they pursued what pleases Allah, and Allah possesses immense grace.
Brothers and sisters, as we stand here tonight to honor all our martyrs, we know that the human life is sacred, and no innocent people has to face what the people in Gaza are facing at this moment. We know that all lives are sacred, but at this moment we need to give priority, and we need to give the space for our Palestinian brothers and sisters who have been murdered, the victims of this oppression, of this brutal attack. We need to give them the space to remember their loved ones, to mourn their loved ones. We are here to honor their souls, and we are here to stand together, not only as Palestinians, as Arabs, as Muslims, but people from all walks of life, regardless of your religion, regardless of your culture, ethnicity, color of your skin, the language you speak. We are all humans. And Allah Almighty said in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. indeed we have honored the children of Adam. This is why we are here for. Thank you so much for joining us at this event to honor our martyrs. Thank you.
Next up, we have Sara Farouk from the San Diego for Palestine Coalition.
There we go. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace be upon you. And good evening, although I wish it was good. My name is Sara Farouk, a local San Diego organizer, and I'm currently working with the San Diego for Palestine Coalition to show solidarity with Palestine and stand up against the injustice happening in Palestine and here in the US, against Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims. I'm also an Iraqi Muslim, and this is not new to me. I'm here directly in the US as a result of US propaganda and imperialism, the same tools being used against our brothers and sisters in Palestine. With all the continuing violence that the Israeli settler occupation has been inflicting on Palestinians, our own local elected officials have been silent. Or if not silent, then they're sharing statements that completely ignore the genocide of Palestinians as funded by our own government. Today we were scheduled to meet with the mayor, Todd Gloria, yet he was absent. A day after the brutal murder and massacre of over 800 displaced Palestinians at Al-Ahli hospital, and the murder of at least 4,000 Palestinians. In the midst of all that is happening right now, we can't even have FaceTime or meet with our electeds. We've reached out to many of their offices. We've heard empty responses. Oh, well, the elected is busy with this. The elected is busy with that. We are keeping track of who's responding. And we were told that there was miscommunication and he was never going to be there in the first place when we explicitly asked for a meeting with him personally. This was a slap in the face, especially when he was the first to speak and show up for Israelis. We need our elected officials to show up for our community and to stand up against injustice. As the mayor of San Diego, you are accountable and responsive to your constituents. And instead, what we were met with was silence. Crickets. I do not care if this issue is too complex or it's not relevant to our office. And this is what we heard in the office, in this meeting with their staff. This is about your community and your constituents and our tax dollars that are going directly to fund this genocide. The murder of men, women, and children, $3.3 billion in aid was sent in 2022. And now Biden wants $100 billion in foreign aid as a package. When at the same time, we are told we don't have enough money for affordable housing, student loan forgiveness, and access to free healthcare. Instead, our government is aiding in the killing and murder of Palestinian children. This is not a foreign policy issue. We cannot remove ourselves from this. We cannot turn away. The US government has blood on its hands. So, dear electeds, your silence in this moment means being complicit in the genocide of over 4,000 Palestinians. And not only that, you are responsible for the targeting of Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims here in this country and in this county. Right here. So don't shy away from this and turn your back, because we will look back at this moment in history and we will remember who stood on the right side of history and who did not. I know that our electeds love MLK. They all love Dr. MLK. They love quoting MLK. So I'll remind them of what MLK says. That injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I do hope that that echoes in their chambers of city council and county board of supervisors, and take this seriously, because we will remember. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to introduce Sama. She is a student organizer with UCSD.
I am tired. Many Palestinians and Muslims are tired because not only are we trying to show the world that we are humans, but constantly having to defend ourselves for speaking up in a country that upholds freedom of speech. We are tired. I am the daughter of immigrants. Among many other Palestinians and Arabs and Muslim students, we are daughters and sons of immigrants and first-generation college students. And a proud Palestinian American, I stand here before you today. However, recently, we have felt the need to downplay and undermine our identity for concerns of safety and for concerns of our higher education. Nevertheless, I, among others, have stand before you today because I am fearless and steadfast. The reason being is Palestinian children don't get to opt out of fear. Gazans grown up only knowing fear. I am so lucky to be standing here today and choosing to stand in fear. But we speak for those who cannot speak no more. Palestinian resilience and Palestinian excellence is rooted in education. No matter how hard anybody tries, knowledge and education is the one thing no one, and I repeat, no one can take away from us. David Ben-Gurion, one of the first prime minister of Israel, once said that the old will die off and the young will forget. But I stand here before you today saying we will never forget. Whether we face the silence, the attempted silenceness here on campus, or we watch the destruction of schools in Gaza and in Palestine, knowledge remains resilient. It is important for us to stand together as a community and continue educating and continue speaking up, no matter how hard anybody tries to undermine us and to silence us. We stand and we persevere because we are Palestinians. On the global stage, Israel has been given the green light to terminate the Palestinian identity. Palestinians have been living under a strict, illegal military occupation, internationally known as an apartheid regime, as noted by multiple renowned human rights organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, along with the Israeli human rights group by the name of B'Tselem. It is deeply troubling and reprehensible that the schools and the city of San Diego show no qualms about openly supporting a government that calls for the collective punishment and mass murder of an entire ethnic group. This year has witnessed the highest number of Palestinian fatalities in modern history. We cannot and will not tolerate the hypocrisy and double standards currently on display, whether it be in the media, on our university campuses, or here in the city of San Diego. We call on academic institutions to take DEI seriously. Based on the university's actions these last few days, it is clear that the universities themselves do not quite understand this concept. If the universities are violating DEI, what does that say to the rest of the student body who is expected to uphold it? In spite of our continuous pleas, institutions like UCSD, USD, and SDSU have not even done the bare minimum of acknowledging our existence. We tried passing out flyers for a memorial that we held last Friday, and instead, we had security officers standing across the way as we stood, and there was an Israeli protest at the same time. We made sure to be quiet. We made sure to give them their space, yet we were still elbowed. We were still threatened, we were still assaulted, and nothing was done. Why is there a double standard? Why is it that I must feel unsafe in speaking up for what is right? There is a genocide happening in front of us, in front of our eyes, and we are being silenced on campus. Academic institutions, these financial ties between these universities and governments involved in actions that contradict the principles of human rights and justice demand a thorough reevaluation. It is our duty to question the moral and ethical implications of these associations and to advocate for a more principled and humane approach to international relations and academic partnerships. Because these international relations directly affect us here in the United States, directly affects us as students, as people in a community. We should never feel unsafe because we work just as hard to get into these institutions, to get into these jobs, to establish ourselves here. We are equals and do not let anyone tell you otherwise. With upholding the principles of justice, equality, and human rights is paramount in maintaining the integrity and inclusivity of educational institutions. Failure to condemn sends a message that Palestinian lives are not valued equally to Israeli lives. It is impossible to feel secure in a university that publicly signals that it does not value your life or the lives of those you identify with and sympathize with. Upholding the principles of justice, equality, and human rights is paramount in maintaining the integrity and inclusivity of educational institutions. Why are we being questioned for speaking up about 800 of people who look like me, who are like me, getting killed? These are people who I consider my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, my loved ones. And I am being questioned when grieving them and mourning them? That is disrespectful. We belong here, we will stay here. And until the city and the states and the nation hears us, we will continue to say our names. We are Palestinians, and we deserve to be here just as much as anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that powerful speech. Next up, I want to introduce Tazeen from CARE, the Center for Islamic American Relations.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. Peace the people of Gaza have not seen for 75 years. That's more than a lifetime. Peace that these folks crave. Safety, security, water that these people are craving. because there is a government that decided that these basic necessities were not given to the people of Gaza. Because we have decided that dehumanizing this population was okay. Under the guise of coming after terrorists, under the guise of safety and protection, under the guise of being a powerful nation, one nation has been constantly tried to be erased. You heard from our youth. For those of our elected officials who say that I don't get involved in foreign policy, I don't comment on foreign policy because that is past my jurisdiction. Let's talk about what your statements or absence thereof is doing right here at home. When our elected officials make statements siding with one population and not even mentioning the other side of the population, which is suffering far more. They have said that these people who come from the Gazan ancestry, the Palestinian ancestry, do not matter. Their ancestry, their relatives do not matter. Does history repeat itself again and again and again in the United States? Are our books going to be rewritten again with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, as they call it, said in the ways of the colonizers? When our students are not safe on campuses, when they're afraid to go back to school to pursue further education, when they don't feel supported by their professors, their administration, how are we supposed to thrive? Funding wars has suddenly become such an important thing that we've forgotten that we have students at home that are starving, being attacked. Safety and security has become a one-sided benefit to certain people on campus. When does this stop? When can I tell my child it's okay to go to college and be confident about her faith, about her expression? Does First Amendment no longer matter to our students? When students are being threatened that their future is tarnished and will no longer flourish because they spoke for their freedom of expression, they sided with the right. When community members are fearful, my sisters are fearful to go to a gas station to put gas because they wear a hijab and they don't know how safe they are putting gas in their cars. When little 6-year-old boys are stabbed multiple times because some crazy lunatic decided it was okay to follow the rhetoric of the Washington or their local elected officials. How do we feel safe? When people are afraid to travel because they don't know how they're going to be treated by TSA because of their last name or their heritage. How do we survive? Geopolitically, it's no longer a distant matter. This war has come to our doorstep, ladies and gentlemen. And I am very grateful for each one of you for showing up here and showing that you have a conscience and you are willing to act with the right, to side with the right, to stand for justice, to stand against an apartheid nation, and to stand for not only the people of San Diego, but also the people of Palestine. Thank you.
Next up, we have Suzanne, a community member, speaking.
My name is Suzanne Hamida, and I'm the president of PCRF, Palestine Children Relief Fund, an American 501c3 nonprofit humanitarian organization that provides medical care for Palestinian and Middle East children victims of the war. We bring children here to treat and send medical missions as well from around the world. Here in San Diego, we hosted and treated children who were burnt victims of the white phosphorus weapons, which, by the way, are a violation to international law. We also treated children who were victims of bombs and airstrikes, who lost limbs and eyes. We cannot get a hold of these children now. These children become family, and there is no word from them. How many more children are we willing to lose? I look you in the eye and remind you that our children, the children of Gaza, the children of Palestine, are no different than any other children in the world. We ask you to call for a ceasefire so we can continue our important humanitarian work on the ground. Thank you.
Next up, we have Janine with the Palestinian Youth Movement, San Diego.
Thank you all for coming today. We organized this vigil within 24 hours, and honestly, we didn't know how many of you would come out, and I'm speechless right now on how many of you all are here today to come together to speak against what's happening and violence against Palestinians. So I want to thank you all. I'm an organizer with the Palestinian Youth Movement. We're a transnational organization of Palestinians all over the world and in the diaspora committed to the liberation of our homeland. It's in times of deep devastation that we have to count on each other. Community and solidarity is what will move us through these difficult times in our struggle. No matter the destruction the Zionist state tries to unleash on Palestinians, we will remain steadfast. We will continue to struggle for our freedom, and we will not waver in our commitment to our liberation. Yesterday, the Zionist regime targeted a hospital in Gaza City, massacring over 500 Palestinians. This massacre is a collective punishment for Gaza's efforts to resist colonization and refuse compromise and capitulation. If we were to read the names of all the martyrs of Palestine, we would be here for weeks and months and years. For the list is comprised of hundreds of thousands of millions of names who lived rich lives and had countless untold stories and left steadfast loved ones behind. These martyrs gave the ultimate sacrifice for our people, and their blood flows through the soil of Palestine, and their spirit nourishes our determination and resolve. If it wasn't already clear, we witness the undeniable genocidal intent of the Zionist entity, intentionally targeting a hospital where mostly women and children were being treated and seeking shelter is the true face of Zionism. Zionism is incompatible with humanity. It is an ideology that seeks ethnic cleansing, continued subjugation, and endless destruction. In the last 9 days, we have witnessed the death toll rise to over 4,000, with more than 1,000 of martyrs being children, not to name the millions that we've witnessed in the last 75 years. And it is important to note that Israel does not act alone. Zionism is an ideology and movement that's empowered and armed by the United States and the West. Just a few days ago, the US, UK, and France blocked a UN Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire. They all profit from the destruction of our communities, and they all have bloods on their hands. The media is also complicit. We will never forgive the Western media outlets for painting a picture of Palestinians as savage terrorists that deserve to die. And we know this rhetoric is purposeful to create consent to Western audiences against the genocide, and the media is complicit in the murder of a 6-year-old in Chicago. As they continue to rain bombs all over Gaza, Zionists are attempting to lie and blame the bombing of the hospital on a Palestinian misfire. This disgusting lie is the Zionist lie is directly contradicted by the Zionist entity's indiscriminate bombing campaign. They already bombed the same hospital twice, issuing threats and calling on Palestinians to evacuate the hospital. Their strategy of blatant misinformation goes hand in hand with a broader Western media misinformation campaign aimed at manufacturing consent for Palestinian genocide. This is the moment for action. That is why we're all here today, and we must be clear to our support for Palestinian liberation. This is the moment where every word counts, where we must raise our voices and demand justice. This is the moment that we must unite for liberation, and we demand that the siege on Gaza be lifted immediately. We demand that a relief corridor to allow food and medicine into Gaza happens immediately. And we demand that all U.S. funding, our tax dollars that are funding the state of Israel, ends immediately. And we call on you to join us again this weekend as we make our demands known loud and clear that we will not stand for the genocide in Gaza, and we will not stand for the violence happening in Palestine. Gaza is the beating heart of our people. Time and time again, in the face of daily Zionist aggression, in spite of devastating blockade of air, land, and sea, and in each of the 6 wars Gaza has endured since 2008, we have witnessed the brave and uncompromising resistance. It is our responsibility here in the heart of the empire to stand firmly with Gaza with an uncompromising commitment to justice and liberation. We will never abandon our people. We will never forget our struggle, and we will never surrender to those who would prefer us to stay silent. We are here today to mourn the eternal souls of our martyrs, but our mourning should never be mistaken for defeat. Gaza will continue to resist. Palestine will continue to resist. And we here in the U.S. will continue to fight until our homeland is liberated and our people are free from the river to the sea. We will never despair. Today we embody the spirit of samud, of steadfastness in the face of the enemy and commitment to the project of resistance. The people of Palestine are undefeated. We are undefeated. Long live the resistance. Free, free Palestine! We named this event Glory to Our Martyrs, this vigil. And I wanted to end today's speech with a list of the martyrs from Gaza. But everyone here in POIM has spent hours, if not days, searching for names, and we could not find a list that compiles all of those lives lost in Gaza. And so I ask you all to raise your candles and join me in a moment of silence and prayer for our martyrs, as a reminder that no matter where we are, we will continue to resist and fight for our homeland until we see a liberated Palestine. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you all. Please join our work, continue to follow us on social media, all of the groups, and continue to stay tuned. We will not stop resisting and making our voice heard until our demands are met, until the siege on Gaza ends, and until the U.S. ends funding the state of Israel. So thank you all for coming out tonight.
We will be having an action this weekend. Please stay tuned and follow us on the Palestinian Youth Movement on Instagram to stay updated. Thank you.